The garage door opened with a metallic roar. Freezing wind swept across the concrete floor, scattering loose papers and lifting the edge of the thin blanket beneath Amara Reed's knees. She tried to raise her head, but the chain around her wrist pulled tight against a steel support post. Billionaire Julian Cross stepped inside, snow clinging to his black coat. For one stunned second he did not move. His fiancée, Vivian Hale, stood beside Amara with a ring of keys in one hand and a bottle of pills in the other. "What is this?" Julian asked. Vivian's anger vanished behind practiced concern. "Julian, you weren't supposed to be home until tomorrow." He looked at Amara's bare feet, the chain, and the blue color spreading across her lips. "I asked what this is." "She locked me in here," Amara whispered. Vivian stepped between them. "She is delirious. She attacked me after stealing medication from your father's room." Amara lifted her chained hand. "Those are not his pills." Julian's gaze shifted to the bottle. Then Amara spoke the words that made him cross the garage in 3 furious steps. "She has been poisoning your father." 6 hours earlier, Amara had been polishing the breakfast silver inside Cross Manor while snow buried the mountain road. She had been sick for 2 days. Her throat burned, fever pressed behind her eyes, and every breath felt heavier than the last. Still, she had reported for work because the clinic treating her younger sister had called that morning. One missed payment would suspend the therapy keeping Lena's heart stable. Mrs. Bell, the elderly housekeeper, noticed Amara trembling near the dining room. "You should be in bed. I'll rest after Mr. Cross takes his medicine." At the head of the table sat Harold Cross, Julian's father and the retired founder of Cross Aeronautics. For 3 months, his health had worsened without explanation. His hands shook, his memory blurred, and sometimes his speech failed completely. Vivian managed his medication personally. She entered in a white cashmere dress, carrying a silver case. "You are still working?" she asked Amara. "I'm well enough. You look contagious." Mrs. Bell checked my temperature. Vivian's eyes narrowed. "Then Mrs. Bell has forgotten who will control this house after the wedding." She opened the case and removed 2 blue capsules. Amara had seen them every morning, but the prescription label in Harold's cabinet described white tablets. "Ms. Hale," Amara said carefully, "the doctor's instructions mention tablets." Vivian stopped. Harold looked at the capsules. "What did you say?" "The label says your morning dose should be white." "The pharmacy changed the form," Vivian replied. "Then why is there no updated label?" Mrs. Bell went still. Vivian closed the case. "You are a maid with a fever, not a physician." "No," Amara said. "But I can read." Harold pushed the capsules away. "Call Dr. Mercer." Vivian's expression cracked. "The roads are closed. Call him." She left the room with her phone. 5 minutes later, Amara found her inside the service pantry, speaking in a low voice. "She noticed the capsules," Vivian said. "Move the documents before Julian returns." A man answered through the speaker. "What about the maid?" "She is already sick. By tonight, everyone will believe the fever confused her." Amara activated the recorder on her phone. Vivian continued. "Harold signs the emergency transfer tomorrow. After that, his health no longer matters." A floorboard creaked beneath Amara's shoe. Vivian turned. The call ended. "Give me the phone." Amara backed toward the corridor. "No. You have no idea what you heard. I heard enough to call Julian. Julian is in Zurich. His father is still here." Amara ran. She reached the rear staircase before dizziness blurred the walls. Vivian caught her from behind, twisted her wrist, and tore the phone free. Amara drove her elbow into Vivian's side. The phone slipped across the floor. Mrs. Bell appeared at the end of the corridor. Vivian screamed. "She attacked me." 2 security guards rushed upstairs. "Take her to the staff wing," Vivian ordered. "She needs a doctor," Mrs. Bell protested. "She needs to be restrained." Amara pointed toward the phone. "Check the recording." Vivian picked it up and smashed it against the marble floor. The guards worked for her private security company. Amara understood too late. They dragged her through the kitchen and across the snow-covered courtyard toward the detached garage. Inside, Vivian dismissed them and fastened a chain around Amara's wrist. "You should have stayed invisible. Julian will find out. He will believe me before he believes a maid whose family depends on my charity. My sister's clinic is funded by Cross Medical, not you." Vivian displayed a message on her phone. "Lena Reed. Treatment review scheduled. You speak about Harold's medicine again, and your sister loses her place by morning." Amara stared at her. "You would kill 2 sick people to marry into this family. I would protect what I spent 8 years building." Vivian placed the pill bottle on a workbench. "The capsules weaken Harold's muscles and cloud his judgment. Tomorrow, he signs control of Cross Aeronautics to an emergency board. A board you control. A board Julian will thank me for creating." Vivian picked up a remote and opened the outer ventilation panels. Snow blew into the garage. "You will be found after midnight," she said. "Confused, violent, and surrounded by stolen medication." Left. The temperature fell rapidly. Amara wrapped the damp blanket around herself. Her fever made the cold feel like knives beneath her skin. A tire iron lay beneath the nearest vehicle, barely beyond reach. She stretched until the cuff cut her wrist, but her fingers missed it. Then headlights swept across the frosted windows. The outer garage door began rising. Julian's private flight had turned back because of the storm, and his driver had brought him home through an emergency military road. He stepped inside unexpectedly and saw everything. Now Julian knelt beside Amara. "Where is the key?" Vivian held it behind her back. "She is dangerous." Julian stood. "Give it to me." "She tried to frame me." "Give me the key." Vivian suddenly threw the pill bottle toward the floor. Amara lunged despite the chain and caught it before it shattered. Julian seized the keys and unlocked the cuff. The moment Amara was free, her legs gave way. He caught her against his chest. Her skin burned with fever. "Call an ambulance," he ordered. "No," Vivian said. Julian looked up slowly. She pressed a hidden red switch. Every garage door slammed shut. The lights turned crimson, and mechanical locks sealed the windows. Vivian backed toward a black armored SUV. "You came home too early." The vehicle's rear doors opened. Inside sat Harold Cross, unconscious and strapped to a medical chair. Beside him was a man in a surgeon's coat holding a loaded syringe. Amara recognized the voice from Vivian's phone call. Julian did too. "Dr. Mercer." The doctor pressed the needle against Harold's neck. A screen descended from the ceiling, displaying a live document waiting for Julian's voice authorization. Vivian smiled. "Now you will help me finish the transfer." The entire garage floor shuddered. Then it began lowering like an elevator, carrying all of them beneath the mansion. The garage descended beneath Cross Manor. Concrete walls slid past, lined with blue emergency lights and faded Cross Aeronautics symbols. Julian supported Amara with one arm while watching the syringe pressed against his father's neck. "Let him go," Julian said. Vivian entered the armored SUV. "Authorize the transfer first." The platform stopped inside a vast underground hangar. There were no aircraft. 6 silver medical capsules stood beneath mechanical arms. Each bore the Cross logo and a name. Amara saw Harold's, then her own. Amara Reed. Compatibility confirmed. "Why is my name here?" Dr. Mercer avoided her eyes. Vivian stepped from the vehicle. "Because your illness is not influenza." Julian tightened his grip around Amara. "What did you give her?" "Nothing today." Vivian touched a screen, revealing Amara's clinic records beside technical diagrams. Cross Aeronautics developed an emergency hibernation system for pilots trapped beyond rescue range. Your father ended the project after the trials caused memory loss. Harold stirred. "He ended it because people died," Amara said. Vivian smiled. Your father told you more than I expected. My father was a driver. Daniel Reed transported the original subjects. Amara froze. Her father had died when she was 12. She remembered sealed government envelopes and his final warning never to accept treatment connected to the Cross family. Before he died, he injected both daughters with a stabilizing protein stolen from this laboratory. Lena's heart condition began when that protein failed. You used her clinic to monitor us. I kept her alive long enough to locate the surviving formula. Julian stared at the capsules. You chained Amara in the cold to trigger a reaction. The protein activates below freezing. Her fever was her body resisting it. Dr. Mercer adjusted the syringe. The transfer missed a cross. A document filled the largest screen. It transferred ownership of Project Winterglass, its patents, records, and living test subjects to Hale Meridian Holdings. Julian looked at Vivian. Your company. My mother's company. The one your father destroyed when he buried this project. Harold's eyes opened. His fingers moved against the restraint. 2 taps. 3 taps. Amara had seen that pattern whenever his speech failed. He was pointing toward the syringe. A dark crystal floated inside the liquid. Julian, that is not medicine. Mercer pressed the needle harder. Vivian raised her remote. Say the authorization phrase. Julian faced the microphone. I, Julian Cross. Amara grabbed his sleeve. You cannot. His eyes shifted briefly toward the ventilation ducts. He had a plan. I, Julian Cross, authorize the complete transfer of Project Winterglass. The screen processed his voice. Voice print rejected. Dual consent required. Harold laughed weakly. Vivian turned on Mercer. You said his voice was enough. It was before Harold changed the protocol. Harold whispered. I knew you were listening. Mercer struck him. Julian moved, but armed guards emerged behind the capsules. Vivian forced Harold's thumb against the biometric plate. Access denied. Subject cognitively impaired. The system believes the condition you created, Julian said. You made him legally incapable of consent. Vivian's expression hardened. Then we restore him. She pointed toward Amara's capsule. Put her inside. 2 guards advanced. Julian stepped between them and Amara. You need her blood to reverse the drug. Her activated protein can clear Harold's nervous system within minutes. The capsule will extract it, Amara said. Mercer nodded. It may also stop your heart. Julian attacked first. He drove one guard against a mechanical arm. Amara seized a metal tray and struck the second across the wrist. His weapon slid beneath Harold's chair. Vivian activated the alarm. Robotic arms dropped from the ceiling. One caught Julian around the chest. Another closed around Amara's waist and carried her toward the open capsule. Amara! Julian shouted. Vivian watched calmly. You were willing to freeze for your sister. Surely you will risk more for the man paying her medical bills. The capsule sealed. Cold vapor flooded the chamber. A needle extended toward Amara's arm. On the inner wall, someone had scratched a message beneath the frost. The cold does not wake the protein. Fear does. Below it were the initials DR. Her father had been inside this capsule. Amara stopped struggling. She slowed her breathing and studied the robotic arm holding Julian. It tightened whenever he fought. She pressed her palm against the glass and mouthed, "Stay still." Julian understood. Both became motionless. The alarms softened. Stress threshold falling. Extraction suspended. Vivian stared at the readings. "What is she doing?" Harold answered. "Refusing to give you what you need." Vivian lowered the temperature manually. I spread over Amara's sleeves. Then a voice came through the speakers. "Amara, can you hear me?" It was Lena. Camera feed appeared. Her younger sister stood inside the clinic's cardiac ward, surrounded by Hale Meridian guards. A small explosive device had been fixed beneath her bed. Vivian raised the remote. Fear activates the protein. Let us give you something real to fear. Amara's pulse spiked. The needle shot into her arm. Dark blue blood entered the extraction tube. Harold shouted. The protein becomes toxic above a 90% stress response. Mercer checked the display. He is right. Continue, Vivian ordered. The capsule unlocked. Amara tore the needle free, swung outward, and used the hanging extraction line to pull Vivian against the glass. She trapped her wrist and seized the remote. Tell your men to leave my sister. Vivian smiled through the pain. That remote controls this hangar, not the clinic. The extracted blood was already traveling through pipes toward Harold's chair. Mercer stared at the darkening fluid. If that reaches him, it will kill him. Julian tore free from the robotic restraint and reached the main controls. Which valve stops it? Mercer pointed toward 3 identical red wheels. The correct one shuts the line. The others release Winterglass gas into the manor. Vivian twisted free and struck the emergency console. All 3 valves began turning. A map of Cross Manor appeared overhead. Every bedroom was marked occupied. A 60-second countdown began. Mrs. Bell's terrified voice came through the speakers. Mr. Cross, the doors upstairs have sealed. We cannot get out. Amara looked between the valves, the poisoned line approaching Harold, and Lena's live image. Vivian backed into the shadows. Choose carefully. Save your father, your staff, or the maid's sister. At 20 seconds, Harold pointed toward Amara. No, he whispered. She is not Daniel Reed's daughter. The final capsule opened behind him. Inside lay Daniel Reed, alive and unchanged after 12 years in suspended sleep. His eyes opened. He looked directly at Amara. Do not touch any valve, he said. The entire manor is already beneath the ice. A deep crack rolled through the hangar. Frost raced across the concrete, climbing the capsules and sealing the platform above them. On the manor map, blue lines spread from room to room until every occupied space flashed the same warning. Winterglass saturation complete. Julian stared at his father. What does that mean? Harold closed his eyes. Daniel left the capsule. It means Vivian never brought us down here to steal the project, he said. She brought the whole house into it. The ceiling groaned. Then Cross Manor began sinking underground. Cross Manor dropped 6 feet. The underground hangar lurched, throwing Julian against the console and sending Vivian beneath the armored SUV. Above them, steel beams screamed as the mansion settled into the frozen shaft hidden beneath its foundations. Amara caught Harold's chair before it overturned. Daniel, what did she activate? The man who had been asleep for 12 years stepped away from the capsule, stiff but alert. Winterglass was built to lower an entire rescue structure underground, seal it from attack, and preserve everyone inside. Julian stared at the blue map. Then why are the rooms marked saturated? Because the preservation gas was contaminated. Vivian crawled toward the SUV. Daniel pointed at her. She knows with what. Amara blocked Vivian. Tell us. The original gas slowed the body, Vivian said. Harold changed it after the first trials. Harold opened his eyes. I changed nothing. Daniel forced open a frost-covered cabinet. Inside were 2 canisters, one silver and one black. The silver compound was Winterglass. The black compound came from Hale Meridian. Julian faced Vivian. Your family created it. My mother created obedience, she replied. Anyone exposed wakes without emotional resistance and follows the first familiar voice they hear. Amara looked toward the manor map. Mrs. Bell and the staff. Still conscious, Daniel said. But when the temperature reaches 0, the gas will put them under. Whoever speaks through the house system when they wake will control them. Vivian smiled. And every board member arriving tomorrow will believe Julian ordered it. Julian seized her shoulders. How do we stop this? The main ventilation controls are inside the central chimney, now 40 feet underground. A bell sounded. Preservation cycle. 8 minutes. Daniel found an old service lift behind the capsules. It reaches the pantry. Harold shook his head. That shaft was sealed after the accident. Daniel looked at him coldly. You sealed it after leaving me inside. Amara turned. You knew he was alive. Harold's silence answered. Julian's face hardened. You told everyone Daniel died. I believed his capsule failed. You never checked. I was protecting the company. Daniel stepped closer. You protected it by letting my daughters believe I was dead. Amara's voice broke. Then Lena is your daughter too? Daniel looked at her with grief. Lena is. You are not. Vivian laughed softly. Amara faced her. What is funny? You still do not understand why your blood activated the system. Daniel moved between them. Do not listen. Vivian continued. Daniel found you inside this laboratory after the first human trial. No records. No parents. Only a number burned into the capsule. Amara touched the faint circular scar near her elbow. Which number? Vivian changed the screen. Subject W01. Original Winterglass survivor. Julian stared at Amara. You said my father injected me with a stabilizing protein, she whispered. He did, Vivian replied. Because your body produced it naturally. Daniel stepped closer. I raised you. That truth matters. It matters, Amara said. But it is not the whole truth. Another alarm sounded. 7:02. Julian opened the service lift. A narrow cage waited behind ice. I'm going upstairs. Amara joined him. You can barely stand, he said. I know what the gas does to my body. That makes me our best chance. Daniel gave her the silver canister. This neutralizes one chamber. There are 6 floors. More may be stored above. Vivian suddenly grabbed the black canister and ran toward the SUV. Julian chased her, but the vehicle doors slammed shut. The engine started, and part of the hangar wall opened into a tunnel. Amara leaped onto the running board before the SUV accelerated. Vivian swerved, trying to crush her against the concrete. Amara smashed the side window with the silver canister. Vivian swung a wrench. Amara caught her wrist, pulled herself through the window, and kicked the steering wheel. The SUV spun and crashed into a rail. The black canister flew from Vivian's hand. Dr. Mercer caught it. He had freed himself from behind Harold's chair. Stay back. Mercer connected the canister to an injector. Vivian stared at him. That belongs to Hale Meridian. It belongs to whoever survives. He injected the black fluid into his neck. The veins around his eyes turned blue. The robotic arms above the capsules activated. Mercer spoke one sentence. Obey me. Every guard lowered his weapon and turned toward Julian. Daniel whispered. They were exposed before we arrived. Mercer pointed at Amara. Place subject W01 inside the primary capsule. The guards advanced. Amara wrapped an extraction line around one guard's ankle. Julian drove another into the SUV. Daniel released cold vapor, blinding the others. Harold rolled toward the controls. I can open the service shaft. Mercer raised a gun. Vivian knocked the barrel aside. The shot ruptured a gas pipe. Black vapor erupted across the hangar. Vivian looked at Amara. Get me out, and I will tell you where Lena is really being held. The clinic feed was fake. The room was real. The location was not. Amara grabbed her arm. Julian opened the lift cage. They crowded inside while Mercer's controlled guards closed around them. The cage rose. Below, Mercer entered the primary capsule and connected himself to the house system. His voice followed them through every speaker. When Cross Manor wakes, it will know only me. The lift stopped between floors. The doors opened onto a frozen corridor filled with motionless servants. Mrs. Bell stood among them, eyes open but empty. Amara stepped forward. Mrs. Bell suddenly seized her throat. Every servant turned toward Julian. Mercer gave his first command. "Kill the billionaire." Julian backed against the lift. Vivian whispered, "There is one voice they may obey before his." "Whose?" Amara asked. "Yours." A hidden panel opened behind Mrs. Bell, revealing an old recording chamber. Inside was a woman suspended in ice. She had Amara's face. Beneath her capsule, a label read, "Subject W00. Biological source." Her eyes opened slowly, and every servant immediately released Julian and bowed. The frozen woman opened her eyes. Every servant in the corridor bowed lower. Mercer's voice thundered through the speakers. "Stand up. Obey me." No one moved. Amara stared at the capsule label. Subject W00. Biological source. The woman inside looked exactly like her, except older. Her hair floated in blue fluid, and a breathing tube covered her mouth. Vivian touched the glass. "Her name is Dr. Celine Ward. She created the stabilizing protein before Harold turned Winterglass into a military project." Daniel stepped from the lift. "And she is Amara's mother." Amara looked at him. "You knew. I found you beside her capsule after the first shutdown. Celine begged me to take you away before cross-security arrived." Harold's face collapsed with shame. "I ordered the chamber sealed. I thought Celine had died." "No," Vivian said. "Your company kept her alive because every Winterglass formula begins with her blood." Mercer appeared on the corridor monitor. Blue veins spread across his face. "Enough history. Bring W01 to me." The servants rose. For one terrible second, Amara thought they had obeyed him. Instead, Mrs. Bell turned toward the chamber and bowed to Celine. A weak voice came from inside. "Amara." The sound unlocked something in the servants. Their vacant expressions flickered. Vivian pointed toward the microphone. "Speak to them before Mercer does." Amara grabbed it. "You know me. I am Amara Reed. You are not weapons and you are not his property. Wake up." Mrs. Bell blinked. One servant lowered his knife. Another began crying. Across the manor map, Mercer's control signal weakened. Obedience network. 61%. 42%. 19%. Mercer roared through the speakers. "Then I will erase every competing voice." Red lights flooded the corridor. Core meltdown 3 minutes. Julian looked at Harold. "Where is the core?" "Under the primary capsule." "Then we go back down." Amara opened Celine's chamber using her blood on the biometric plate. Blue fluid drained, and Celine collapsed into her arms. "You came back," Celine whispered. "I came to take you out." Daniel lifted Celine while Julian, Amara, and Vivian entered the lift. Harold stopped Vivian. "Why are you helping us?" She looked at the servants recovering nearby. "Because I wanted control, not a graveyard." The lift descended into the hangar. Mercer stood inside the primary capsule connected to black cables. Poisoned Winterglass gas moved through them like smoke beneath glass. Armed guards blocked the core. Vivian ran toward the opposite console. "Mercer still trusts my access code." She entered it. The guards turned toward her. Mercer smiled. "You finally chose correctly." Vivian pressed a second command. Robotic arms swung down and locked the guards against the floor. "I chose not to belong to you." Mercer released himself and attacked her. Amara intercepted him. He was stronger under the drug, but his movements were wild. She ducked his first strike, trapped his elbow, and drove him into the capsule wall. He caught her throat. Julian struck him with a steel brace. Mercer staggered, then reached for the meltdown switch. Vivian seized an extraction cable and wrapped it around his wrist. Cable across her shoulder, and sent him crashing onto the frozen floor. Julian locked him inside Harold's medical chair. "Core meltdown 048. Harold shouted from the lift. "The black compound must be replaced with Celine's stabilizer." The The silver canister was shattered beside the SUV. Celine entered the hangar supported by Daniel. Use my blood. Amara shook her head. You just woke after years. Celine looked at her daughter. You survived because I made your body stronger than mine. Amara understood. My blood can stop it. She connected the extraction line to her arm. Julian held her hand as the stabilizing protein moved into the core. The black vapor turned clear. Meltdown cancelled. The manor began rising. By sunrise, emergency crews had freed every servant. Mercer and the corrupted guards were arrested. Harold confessed to hiding Winterglass and imprisoning its survivors. He surrendered Cross Aeronautics and agreed to testify. Vivian admitted chaining Amara in the garage, threatening Lena, and helping activate the system. Her cooperation saved lives, but she still faced prosecution. Lena was found safe in a secret clinic and reunited with Daniel, Celine, and Amara. Months later, the underground hangar became a treatment center for Winterglass victims. Julian funded it, but Celine and Amara controlled it independently. At the garage entrance where Amara had once been chained, Julian removed the final steel post. You saved my father after everything he did. I saved everyone he endangered. He looked at her with respect. Vivian had tried to freeze a sick Maid into silence. Instead, she awakened the woman whose blood could break the system, free an entire household, and bring the buried truth back into the light.